The Cleveland Browns and the Philadelphia Eagles played to an 18-18 tie last night at the Link in Philadelphia. Yes, I know what everybody wants to talk about, but we're going to get to the offense first. We're going to get to the defense first, and then we'll get to that. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and ELOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, 7 seasons now with Locked On Browns, covering your Brownies. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd. It's becoming a revolution. Best way to do that is by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. 18-18 final last night from the Link in Philadelphia. The Cleveland Browns and the Philadelphia Eagles played to the 18-18 tie. Yes, the Cleveland Browns had 2 opportunities to win the game late, as Cade York went 3 of 4 on his field goals and missed one that could have given the Browns the lead. There was penalty on the play, was given another opportunity from 5 yards closer and missed that one as well. We'll get to all that. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, not as on last night as we've seen him in the first 2 weeks. And look, the Philadelphia Eagles are a really solid football team. That means the reserve football players are also really, really good football players. But you saw everything from Dorian, getting the wide receivers highly, highly involved. And one of my biggest takeaways, from these exhibition games is that even though the Browns starters aren't playing, you're still seeing the idea and the premise of what the offense is, what the defense is, and you're seeing a lot of success. So it has a hard time for me to believe that, the offense won't be successful, and certainly the first team defense won't be successful when their time comes. So DTR, obviously, another good night for him, of course. Just continue to stack days together. Demetric Felton, 10 total touches, 48 yards, 4.8 yards per touch. That'll keep you employed in the NFL. And for the Cleveland Browns right now, they need help at the running back position. It's going to be a spot where right now Demetric Felton is a guy who probably, has a roster spot sewn up for himself. The fact that where we're at, the Austin Watkins Jr. hype train is just literally off the rails. Again, last night, 7 for 132, 7 for 139, whatever it was, and a touchdown, of course. Cheap shot in the end zone, and still able to hit the gritty. Congratulations to Austin Watkins. And I know there's a lot of talk here about what the Browns are going to do at the wide receiver position. Of course, we know Coop is here. We know Moore is here. We know DPJ is here. We know Cedric Tillman is here. He had a nice night. We'll get to him here in a second. Jakeem Grant not playing in the preseason. I don't know what to make of that. I really don't, because if they think Jakeem Grant is a roster lock, then wouldn't he get work? It just seems odd. The guy hasn't played any football in 16 months. Why is if Jakeem Grant's a roster lock, he should be getting playing time. That is just my opinion on that. Marquise Goodwin, look, this is a medical thing. We don't know when he's going to be here. The Browns can keep him on a separate non-football injury list to start. So his time here is safe until they have to bring him up to the roster, and that can cause somebody a spot. Of course, Jalen Darden is another one. Jalen Darden has done nothing the entire summer. So are you going to keep Jalen Darden over what Austin Watkins Jr. has done at this point? Not a chance in hell. Still the talk of David Bell. And guys, just stop. David Bell is making this roster. David Bell is wide receiver 5. We're talking about 5 and 6 here. And Austin Watkins Jr., in my opinion, and I understand he doesn't offer a ton from the slot, and the Browns would like a little bit more versatility because you have DPJ, Coop, and obviously Tillman, who are more predominant players on the outside. But if somebody's got to learn something different, let it be Austin Watkins Jr. The kid is lighting it up right now. Everything is coming so easily for him right now. He is seeing things that the guys covering him are not. Sometimes you just got to ride, the hot hand. And I believe it was mentioned somewhere today. He's on a similar path right now to what Victor Cruz did years ago in his first preseason with the New York Giants. Guy who just came out of absolute nowhere and basically just lit it up. Look, Austin Watkins Jr. right now is a legit force. And unless somebody wants to give up a pick for him, the Cleveland Browns would be foolish, and I mean utterly foolish, to move on from him. The guy is just in the zone right now. And for a team that needs to make sure they have all their playmakers and everybody, has the ability to, continue to be there when their number is called. Right now, Austin Watkins Jr. for me is a must save. I will move on from Jalen Darden. I will certainly move on from Jakeem Grant. Both of these guys are unknowns. What Watkins Jr. has done right now in 3 weeks is more than Darden has done for the Browns, and certainly more than Jakeem Grant has done. So if you want to say he's wide receiver 6 and you keep Goodwin on the non-football injury list, I am more than okay with that. Cedric Tillman, the stop and go route, sluggo, whatever you want to call it. Fantastic job. And the thing you saw was the high point, man. The Browns have tried to make an emphasis here over the last couple of years to try and get some bigger guys in at the wide receiver room. Donovan Peoples-Jones, certainly a bigger guy at wide receiver position. Now you bring in Cedric Tillman. And that is one thing, guys cannot cover. So for Cedric Tillman, just finding his way, doing what he can do. He's been a really, really solid surprise here. And I think you're going to see Cedric Tillman surpass both Donovan Peoples-Jones and David Bell, what they did as rookies. Cedric Tillman is going to be a guy that's going to be able to perform for this team. And when they go 4 wide receiver sets, it'll be Coop, it'll be Moore, it'll be DPJ, and it'll certainly be Cedric Tillman. The future of this room and the wide receiver room for the Cleveland Browns is certainly a bright one. DeJuan Jones, this was probably the toughest test to this point for DeJuan Jones. Look, Nolan Smith is no slouch, 30th overall pick in this past NFL draft. And the thing, and one of the critiques were that, Nolan Smith was quicker to the contact. Well, he should be. He's an extremely fast player. He's an extremely quick player. And if DeJuan Jones got his hands on Smith before Smith was able to retaliate, Smith would have been on the ground or would have been on the sidelines. This was a really difficult test for DeJuan Jones, just due to the fact that Nolan Smith is a thinner guy, just more athletic. Talking about a guy who 6'3", I think he was 230, if not even less at the combine. So this is a real difficult test for a guy like DeJuan Jones. And I think his footwork was good. There were, some reps, I think, certainly where Nolan Smith, maybe got the better of him, but, he's a first round pick. He's a high quality caliber player as well. But overall, again, for DeJuan Jones, a really, really solid moment. And I'm just going to say this as I transition. The fact that they're not giving DeJuan Jones a look at left tackle certainly still bewilders me, because James Hudson, and I like James Hudson, I think he's a hardworking guy. I really do. I think he's a guy you want in your locker room. I think he has that type of mentality, that type of work ethic. But from what you see, and there's the old term when you talk about offensive tackles is anchor. And you hear a lot of guys say he's got no ass. No ass means you got no anchor. Basically, you can't settle down and hold yourself. And for James Hudson, sometimes that is an issue for him. James Hudson, in my opinion, looks like a guy that might be better suited for the interior. I don't think there's much the Browns can do about it this season. But that also still makes me wonder why DeJuan Jones is not getting looks on the other side. The Browns still need a swing tackle. And if DeJuan Jones can be better than James Hudson on the left side and better than James Hudson on the right side, he's the swing tackle. That's it. Conversation over. So, that's what's bewildering to me, the fact that DeJuan Jones has not gotten any snaps on the left side of the ball. We already know he's better than Hudson on the right side. Let's see if he's equal to or better than Hudson on the left side, and then cement him as your swing tackle here for the 2023 season. But overall, offensively, I was impressed. Browns didn't throw with as much success as we've seen the last couple of weeks. Kellen Mond, put together a nice showing for himself. Kellen Mond will be moving on here shortly, obviously, as the Browns most likely are going to be releasing Kellen Mond, as DTR has cemented quarterback 3. In my opinion, he cemented quarterback 2. But those are conversations and topics for another day. But Kellen Mond did some nice things for himself. And for a guy who's been here, almost a full year now, hasn't got a ton of playing time, looked more comfortable, looked more understanding of what his role was in the Browns offense last night. So hats off to Kellen Mond. Pretty good effort from him. We are going to switch it up. We're going to go to the defensive side of the ball. And man, was there a guy out there last night who was just absolutely on fire. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride with me. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business when you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. look, man, you just go through, you put out what you need. Here's what I'm looking for. These are the skills. This is the educational requirements. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Your latest Locked On Browns. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride with me. Your host, Jeff Floyd. Now, everybody makes Locked On Browns your first listen. You are awesome. I appreciate you. Join the everyday crowd by subscribing to the YouTube channel. And Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. On the defensive side of the ball, look, there is one name and one name that stood out above all the rest last evening. Mohamoud Diabate. 7 solo tackles, had a tackle for loss that led to a safety, had a pass defense as well. Now, this guy, a relative athletic score, you guys know I always talk about this, Kentley Plowdy, relative athletic score of 9.11. Of 2,400 linebackers measured under this analytic testing number, he was in the 230s. This guy is a legit athlete, spent time at Florida, finished his career at University of Utah. And all of a sudden now, and I get tweets every day, messages in the shows every day. The Browns need to add a linebacker. The Browns need to add a linebacker. The Browns need to add a linebacker. I agree with you guys. The Browns do have a linebacker problem. They probably now have too many of them. Jeremiah Uskoromo is making this team. Tiaki Taki's making this team. Anthony Walker is making this team. Tony Fields is making this team. That's 4. Puts you to Diabate. It puts you to, of course, Jordan Kunashik. Of course, the special team player that brought over as well. The Browns are now kind of deep at linebacker. And look, for Diabate, this is going to be really, really interesting and really, really difficult at the same time because you see a high motor player. And one of the questions coming out of Utah was, can he get off blocks? Well, to this point, the Browns defensive line has done a fantastic job on doing what thing that makes your linebackers look so good? Keeping the blocks off of them. So you see a player with quick reactions, quick to diagnose, quick to read, quick to fill the hole. These were all the things that you took away from this young man's play last night. He is really, really a tough player. He has really, really improved in his time here. Hadn't seen a lot of him on the field, but the talks out of camps and out of practices were that this guy was really putting in the effort, really making a name for himself, and really, really starting to raise some questions. If the Browns want him, I think they can't risk it. They can't. If he is released, there are teams who will most likely jump in on this. So it's going to be interesting to see the way it plays out for Diabate. But this is a player right now that the Browns really, really going to have some conversations about. There'll be one more preseason game. And if he puts together another effort even close, similar to this, the Browns are really having some difficult situations put in their lap. But that's really a good thing, honestly. That is what you're hoping for, is that these guys that you took chances on, came in, were receptive to coaching, had a lot of work ethic, and were able to put it together. So Diabate is certainly one of those guys. 6 sacks. See, that is something for me. I was very, very happy to see, very thrilled to see. Togiai, Wiley, Hurst, McAllister, Lonnie Phelps, who also had 3 solo tackles, also had a pass defense. I've talked about Lonnie Phelps. They also had 2 players that split a sack as well. So good effort there. Lonnie Phelps. Now, this might be a guy you might be able to squeeze through. Again, for the Browns, he's a little bit more undersized. He's not the 6'4", 250-pound D end we're accustomed to. A little bit more undersized. The guy's got a really, really high motor, and starting to understand and get a little bit more comfortable in what his role is for Jim Schwartz's defense, and finding his way to be a contributor here in Jim Schwartz defense. Ronnie Hickman, first off, the news is good. Clear the concussion protocol, so should be free to return to practices when the Browns do return to practice. 3rd interception in 2 games. Look, again, Ronnie Hickman is 21 years old. He will turn 22 about the same time Anthony Bell turns 27. This isn't a contest. This isn't a battle. When one guy is doing what Ronnie Hickman has done and has 5 years of age in his favor on the younger side, this is over, guys. Ronnie Hickman has solidified a spot on this roster, and good for the young man. Came in undrafted. There's always that chip on the shoulder when you come out of a big-time school, and Ronnie did coming out of Ohio State. There's always a chip on your shoulder when you were not a drafted guy. Normally, you go to those big schools, you get your playing time, you play your final year in college. That's usually enough to get you slam dunk in that you will be selected at some point. Didn't work out for Hickman. Could have cried about it, could have pissed, could have moaned. But you want to know what? Ronnie Hickman came into this camp willing to work. And the results have shown over the past 2 weeks, 3 interceptions for Ronnie Hickman. Good on him. Charlie Thomas, continue just to be a fun player. And, there was a time maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe thought Charlie Thomas had a spot chance here. But I think what Diabate has done is just, Thomas still looks like a work in progress. Diabate looks like a guy who absolutely 100% knows what he's doing. But for Charlie Thomas, hey, maybe he can find a way to squeeze him through, because I think this would be a guy, if the Browns could continue to work with him, there could be a player there that is certainly worth rostering on an NFL roster at the linebacker position. So Charlie Thomas, continue out there and keep up the good work. Cam Mitchell, 3 solo tackles, tackled for loss. As we're shifting here, and AJ Green certainly going to be missing time here, and the questions about his roster spot certainly up in the air. Cameron Mitchell, kind of solidifying a spot for himself, solidifying a role for himself here, and good for the young man. Came in here, and everybody kind of started with a clean slate, brand new defense coordinator, a lot of new talent. So for Cam Mitchell, obviously, a guy just, again, continually use it. And they said it last night during the game, continuing to stack days together. So Cam Mitchell, one of those guys as well. The defense, it just continues to impress me. It really does. Because you see what's going on up front. And we got to see our first looks at Tristan Hill last night. And Tristan Hill, still in a battle here to maybe, find a way to get a defensive tackle spot for himself. And the Browns might be in a spot where they could possibly keep him. Due to the fact that, they might be a little lighter at defensive end first couple of weeks. And maybe there could be a spot to, maybe go 5 defensive tackles to maybe solidify, and you have your true idea, true feeling as to who the 4th defensive tackle is. So that's certainly something to watch here, but good for him. But look, the defensive line is doing their job, man. These guys are getting after the quarterback. These guys are keeping your linebackers clean. Week in, week out, we go. We look at the stats. We look at the film. The linebackers are being kept clean. They are free to roam. They are free to make plays. So it's a joy to watch, and it's sad to say, because it's the most simple thing, and it goes back to football 100 years. Your defensive line, keep your linebackers clean. Your linebackers are supposed to rock up tackles. That's the way it works. We haven't seen it, certainly for a couple of years here now, as the Browns have not had strong defensive play, certainly in the 7 years that I've been covering this team. So it's just been an absolute joy to watch. Jim Schwartz, that dog in him. He's an aggressive defensive coordinator. There's times where that's certainly going to come bite him in the can. But you want to know what? I'd rather go out swinging than basically going out, taking it on the chin. And that's the way Jim Schwartz coaches on the defensive side of the ball. Go attack. If they're better than us, they're going to beat us anyway. So you know what? We better go out, balls to the wall, and do everything we can to essentially be the hammer and not the nail. And that has really been fun to watch here. These guys are moving around quickly. Everybody, you can see where we talk about the, not so much verbiage. These guys are confident in what they have to do, and they go about it 100 miles an hour. And it's been really, really impressive to watch to this point. So Jim Schwartz, the defense, again, kudos here. And I will say this one thing, Marcus Mariota, watching him last night against the Browns, second, third stringers, whatever it was, he looked like a guy who came over from JUCO and jumped in an NFL preseason game. This is a guy that beat the Cleveland Browns last year. Granted, he only completed 7 passes, but you saw him last night against the Browns reserves, and this guy looked terrible. This Browns defense is vastly, vastly improved. Of course, Andrew Berry and, of course, Jimmy Haslam, they put the money into it, but Jim Schwartz is the heart and the soul and the brain trust behind it, and it's been fun to see to this point. Oh, you want to talk a little kicker, did you? Oh, I guess we'll get to that. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride as y'all head on out for one more, maybe magical, great weekend here in the summer of 2023. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns, segment 3, as we give our final analysis here. Browns, Philadelphia Eagles, 18-18 tie last night at the link down in Philadelphia. Of course, Browns with an opportunity later in the game to possibly get the game for themselves. Cade York lines up, game-winning field goal. Looks like it's going perfect. Then a little slice to the right, wide right. Well, penalty on the flag. Cade York gets a chance at redemption. 5 yards closer. What does Cade York do? Does he stick confident and true to his first kick and say, maybe just take it a hair left and then the push will be fine? No, overcorrects himself and wide left. Look, it's difficult. It is. And the Browns, with so much riding on this season and the potential for this team to be as successful as they possibly can, this is a really, really sticky situation to be in. And look, Cade York still last night, 3 for 3, his first 3 field goals, extra point. Whatever went on at halftime, I don't know. I've reached out. I haven't gotten the full details yet, but but I will blame some of you all. Obviously, Cade York was getting the love fest on Twitter until all of a sudden the love fest wasn't there anymore. The problem is, if you call up a kicker like a veteran kicker like Robbie Gould, and Robbie Gould has been in the NFL forever, and Robbie Gould is probably somebody that could translate a little bit to kicking in Cleveland. Certainly had a long career with the Chicago Bears before he went out to San Francisco. So the transition to whether it's probably not that big for Robbie Gould, but you can't call a Robbie Gould and say, hey, come on in and let's battle this out for a week and a half. You call Robbie Gould with one intention and one intention only. We're cutting Cade York, and we want you to come be our kicker for 2023. But the question is, I think the Browns would like to continue to at least give Cade York a puncher's chance here. The joint practices, he was 6 for 6. He was 3 for 3 last night until he wasn't. And the Browns don't want to, just release him now. They would like to let the young man try to work through this. I'm sure they would like to give him the opportunity to kick in the Kansas City game and see, hey, if you can go 3 for 3, hey, then maybe you're there. So it's a real tough spot, of course, with all this. And for Cade, look, kicker, it's a mental thing. It really is. Do I remember the guys who kicked on teams I played? Yeah. Did we ever really talk to them much? No. Why? Because they're the kickers, and they had the job that nobody else truly understood. You could talk to kickers outside of football, parties, hanging out, this, that, the other thing. But as far as talking about the game of football, you couldn't. You didn't understand it. It's a really, really difficult position. That's why there's, a handful of great ones, and everybody, but will say this, though. I think everybody expects whatever kicker you bring in here, the measuring stick is Justin Tucker. No, it's ridiculous. Justin Tucker is a Hall of Famer. Justin Tucker right now, when the Baltimore Ravens cross the 40-yard line of the opposition, is automatic. If Justin Tucker were offered up in a trade by the Baltimore Ravens, he would probably command a late first-round pick or an early second-round pick. That is how clutch and that is how automatic he is. Is that every kicker in the NFL? No. And it's not even close. So I think the bar is certainly set high for Cade York. Probably higher than it should be, but in the same respect, is he hitting the floor? And that's where the tricky part is. He's got the leg strength. Most of the times he's got good accuracy. It's always the to the end and that goes. So I don't know what the true answer is or what the exact correct answer is to do with a guy like Cade York. But the Browns are going to give him the rest of summer, the rest of training camp. And, from what I've reached out to, this is something they're not ignoring. This is something they certainly have their eyes and their ears all over, because especially with this, 5-game in 6-week stretch to start the season, these are games that are going to be really, really close. And the Browns cannot afford, to lose a game by 2 because a makeable field goal was missed. It can't happen. They're just not in that spot. And it won't be the same if it was Robbie Gould or kicker X. The Browns are going to need solid kicker play early in the season to navigate this difficult schedule. So it's tough. And for everybody, why'd you spend the draft? The Browns didn't have much else, and Cade York has already had more of an impact on the Cleveland Browns than Perion Winfrey ever did. So stop with that, okay? Because where Cade York was picked, it was fine. And, look, when he won game 1 last year, y'all loved him to death. Perion Winfrey, who was drafted before Cade York, what'd he do? What's he done? Where is he? I don't know, but he's all over Instagram. But guy ain't playing no football, and ain't nobody calling Perion Winfrey. So for Cade York, we'll see the way it goes. He's going to get an opportunity next Saturday. Obviously to take some kicks against the Chiefs. But if you want a guy like Robbie Gould, that means you're automatically ending this because Robbie Gould is not going to come out and try out. Robbie Gould is 38 years old. He is proven. He's been in the league forever. If the Browns make that phone call, it means that they're cutting Cade York and they're handing Robbie Gould his job. So if you don't hear the name, that's probably the reason why. If you do hear the name, that means they have decided they're going to cut one and fully give the job to somebody else. You're not going to bring a Robbie Gould in for a kicking competition. It just doesn't work that way. He's a veteran. He deserves more respect than that. He commands more respect than that. Barack was fantastic. Ain't going to lie. 52.5 yards, I think, per punt. He's just got a big leg. The Browns are really, really going to need get the best out of their gunners because you're never going to tell Barack West to slow down the leg so you can accommodate for, not giving up big returns. But Barack West just another solid job here. This was a really, really good move by the Browns. And they're just getting consistent punter play. They need to now get consistent kicker play, and they need obviously a way to help here and get a little bit more out of the return game. But of course, granted, we're not even settled in yet as far as who the return men are going to be for this team. DTR, Austin Watkins, Cedric Tillman, Dwan Jones, thumbs up. Diabate, thumbs up. Obviously, Ronnie Hickman, thumbs up. Cade York, thumbs down. But the Browns 18-18 tie. The Browns return to practice, close out the preseason Saturday the 26th with the Kansas City Chiefs. So if the Browns get an opportunity in here to get some really, really good work, Philadelphia Eagles this week, then you'll play the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams obviously played in the Super Bowl last year. Doing your best you can to get your team ready for hopefully what will be a really, really strong start to the 2023 Cleveland Browns season. I am Jeff Lloyd. I've been your host here at Locked On Browns, and now my 7th season. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. We're always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. And this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.